That's right back, Charlie. That's right.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. Come on.
There's always just that active red flag defending. I think it's like. There's always just that active red flag defending. I think it's like. There's always just that active red flag defending. I think it's like. There's always just that active red flag defending. I think it's like.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. And with an introduction like that, what more can I say, people? We have a special guest. We're blessed with the presence, the athletic man himself, the man who interviews Balogun, Arteta, all of these guys. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. We're not worthy, my guy. What are you saying?
Every time you do that, I get so embarrassed.
That's the whole point, bro.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I hope you're doing well. I hope everyone who's tuning in is doing well too on this Wednesday afternoon. Yeah, I mean, happy to be here and talk Arsenal.
Appreciate you for being tuned in, man. It must be a quite I wouldn't say quiet period. You know, you interviewed Balogun and that. I specifically haven't read that because I'm reading it with my fans at 3:10 after this stream. Yeah, man. What's it like? The first question, actually unrelated. What's it like being a journalist where obviously game in, game out, you're in a mad world. There's this to do, there's that to do, and I don't want to say downtime because I know you've got bare things to do, but it's a bit of a dry period. Is it a time where you can kind of concentrate on more abstract pieces? Is it just a quiet period? What's it like?
Yeah, it's quite difficult to explain, I think, because I guess people would probably just assume, oh, international break, they're just going to do nothing. Whereas, yeah, as you say, you kind of get some time to work on some more kind of long-term ideas, abstract kind of pieces. One I'm working on at the minute, hopefully will come out in a couple of weeks' time, which I hope will go down well. You never know until it's actually out there. And yeah, also for me, I don't know, because I do some stuff on the women's game as well. They're obviously they're still playing during the international break anyway, so it's not really a break. It's just maybe the focus switches a little bit more than usual. So yeah, hopefully that's a decent kind of. No, man,
you done well there. Obviously, again, if there's a certain YouTuber, commenter, I can't remember his name, but a few days ago I had a show with Matisse, and he said that he was doing journalism at uni and all these things and like tips, and it's just hit me with, you know, in the hope that he's out here with you, obviously. Doing what he's aspiring to do. Do you have any tips? Mine was have a YouTube channel as well as be, you know, think outside the box. Certain men don't have a YouTube channel. They should. Fair enough though. But what sort of excuse I don't know what excuse you got for that, because you're missing out on the treat, man. We're missing out.
Fair, like my mum, she's not in today, so she won't walk past the camera.
Big up Mumsy.
But she says that I should do more video stuff, and I maybe I should. I don't know.
Should, man.
But yeah, I guess what would my advice be? I guess whenever you have an idea about anything, just write it down. Like sometimes I have ideas when I'm literally just about to fall asleep, and
I'm the same.
I just got to put it in my notes app and stuff like that. And whether it's
mind,
like,
innit? You will forget.
yeah, whether it's just like something for a written piece or a video, just get it out there. Basically, I think there's not really a difference between what you and me do, really.
Oh, hey! I ain't interviewed Balogun and that. Listen. I'd love to be in that. I'm trying to be like you, bro.
No, but I mean, like,
No, I'm
just
chatting,
like
man.
in terms of just having ideas and bringing them to fruition, anyone can do that.
Fact.
So I think the big thing is just making sure you kind of document those ideas and then have somewhere to kind of bring them to fruition, really. So hopefully whoever sent that comment is listening, and hopefully that's kind of good advice. I never know whether I'm actually giving good advice, really.
Nah, man. Anything you're
yeah.
giving is good advice, man. Because like you know, you're obviously aspiring to do big things. You've done big things, but once upon a time, you was probably in the same shoes as that individual. So
Yeah.
you know, anything you shared, which you have, you know, it's invaluable, really. You know, that might just be what you've said. You might not think you've said anything, but that little comment might just spark the creative juices, man. So to that individual out there, while I can't remember your name, you know what Art just said there, follow that, and obviously implement your own little things and just keep testing yourself is what I would say. I'd say think inside the box, outside the box, around the box. Just find something and exploit it, really and truly, and what works for you. I can't lie though, man. I've picked the best time for you to come on, man, because you are someone that shares my love for beautiful football, for intricate football, for poetry, emotion. It's a bit sad, but I'm sure you've seen this. Mesut Ozil has confirmed he's retired from football. What's your thoughts on Mesut Ozil as a player in general? Obviously, time at Arsenal, and the fact that he's announced his retirement, man.
Yeah, I felt like this was a topic that was going to come up. Yeah, I think it's hard to put into words, really, because he's someone who I think for people of a certain generation was almost like just a kind of a step up from, again, I feel like we've spoken about this all the time, but that really early period of Arsenal at the Emirates, he was kind of that on steroids, really.
Wenger
and
personified. Ended the trophy drought. Propaganda and emotion.
Luckily at the time, tickets were a lot easier to come by than they are this season. So like when he first joined, I would have been 15 and still in school. So I was a junior gunner, and me and my friends from school would just get the family enclosure tickets and just go to whatever games we kind of felt like. And
how long was you running that junior gunner stuff when you was obviously of age? Yeah, I had to. I know. Listen, I know how it gets. How long was you running?
I respectfully went up to Cannon Club and stuff. So, but yeah, I think you basically went and he was the show. I remember a game against Bournemouth where, again, the ball just comes to him and you're just thinking, rip this guy, and he just do it. And also one thing I feel like when you're watching football, you're always kind of predicting what will happen next when you're watching football. And oftentimes you can guess which way the next pass is going to go. You can kind of predict what's going to happen next. But with him, he so frequently did the unexpected and was often right in what he did as well. So yeah, it's quite a difficult one to kind of comprehend at the minute, because I think he's maybe one of the first players where it may just hit really differently after a week or so. But yeah, I'm glad, I'm privileged to be able to have watched him in the flesh so often during my, I guess, formative years, or when I was starting to kind of understand football a bit more. And I'm sure you probably feel the same.
Feel the same way, man. I think I was 18 when we signed Mesut Ozil. I was in Malia. I saw a newspaper. It said we're getting Di Maria, Benzema, and Ozil. I thought, this is nonsense. This paper talk. The next day, I'm seeing fans going mad. Deadline day, we signed Mesut Ozil. Obviously, I think a couple of days before that, we had a game, or maybe even the day before.
Yeah, it was the day before. I remember.
Yeah.
I was at that game.
Wenger was doing the Wenger stuff. It was lit. He was a madman, man. Like I can't lie. I've seen a lot of footballers. Obviously, I was privileged to have watched. Not all the time, but I've seen Henry with my own eyes, Dennis Bergkamp with my own eyes. I think when it's all said and done, we all know Ozil's a bit of an enigma. But when you look at him as a footballer and what he brought, especially when you watch games again, especially when you're live, very few players are better to have played for this football club. An absolute magician, a majestic number 10. There's no coincidence. We signed him and Santi Cazorla and these kind of men, and we ended our trophy drought, man. I mean, there's not much more I could say. I think Jose said it best. If you watch football, you might miss Ozil. If you watch Ozil, you might miss the game. And the man's got to say he's got eyes in the back of his head, vision. It's crazy, and I'm sure you would agree. Well, apart from the class Norwegian, the best Norwegian international in the Prem, we don't really have these majestics, number 8s and 10s and all of these sort of things anymore. Why do you think that is, anyways?
Well, this is something that's been on my mind for ages, and I may have like some thoughts that may come to light in, I don't know, a month, a couple months, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. But for the purpose of this conversation, what I kind of see, like the comment from Gio says, obviously the kind of dying breed of the number 10 was,
how can I assist you?
A theme for the past few years. We've seen, obviously, Odegaard has maybe put that to rest in terms of Arsenal, because even though he doesn't play as a number 10, he's doing everything.
He's like an 8.5/10.2 or something.
And I just think the big thing is you're not having as many footballers exploit their technical abilities. A lot of football now has just become a bit rigid. Whereas with Ozil, Cazorla, Kleb, Rosicky, Nasri, Arshavin, and I'm going to mention Arshavin at some point again later on.
This is propaganda.
Those guys were just a lot more freeform, I think. So yeah, I'm glad that Arsenal have some players who can kind of replicate that again now, because you're seeing, I guess, the team now, they're not really rigid in any way. It's all kind of free flowing. So
inspiring the next generation as well. You see it.
Definitely. So yeah, I think hopefully it's not a shortage that's going to go on for too long in terms of general football. But I think at Arsenal, they're kind of getting back to their roots of just having creators everywhere, basically.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a lot more pessimistic than you. I feel football works in cycles, same way three at the back. If you're older than us, probably in the 70s and 80s, and so you've seen many teams play three at the back. There was a second, maybe if I'm wrong, but Conte kind of brought that back into the English game, and some people still doing it, some are not. I think football works in periods, but I agree with what you're saying. I just feel football has become, it's more of a collective. It's not really the individual. It's more like it's almost like the two managers are playing PlayStation against each other, like a chess match. It's true, and that, along with, I feel, more emphasis on great athleticism, pressing metrics, like kind of what you're saying. I think players are not encouraged to really leverage their technical levels, and as a big part of that is why you've seen, from a footballing sense, the majestic 10s, Ozil, Isco, not that Isco's with Ozil, can talk to him any day of the week, but they've kind of died. You kind of have to adapt like David Silva and Bernardo Silva, or you have to be like an Odegaard, where there's elements of that majestic stuff. And to be fair, Ozil's pressing metrics were quite good at Arsenal. But when you look at, Martin Odegaard's pressing metrics and things like that, he doesn't actually get praised for it. But he is essential to how Arsenal defending things. So I think that's that. Would you say who would you say was better for Arsenal? And I know it's a difficult one. Alexis Sanchez or Mesut Ozil?
Oh, that one's not really difficult for me. I was always in the Ozil camp for that.
Why? Because some might say Alexis obviously had that match winner stuff. I think the best answer is Santi Cazorla, but yeah, man. Why would you say that?
For me, so again, this goes into this whole discussion, really, is the type of footballers you like to see. And I guess it does come down to the type of football you watched growing up. And I think just because of that list of players that I named earlier on, Ozil was much more similar to them. So I just gravitated towards him a lot more. Obviously, I think you could say maybe Sanchez had more X factor than Ozil. But for me, Ozil was just a bit more romantic in the way he played football. And it's funny, like mentioning him with Odegaard. I think Odegaard, along with Smith Rowe, those two are the first players since Ozil to make me just make noises when watching football. Like,
You know what? I
just
think Trossard as well. Not
yeah,
to them,
Trossard.
but he's kind of getting in there now as well. If I'm honest,
Honestly, that Trossard guy is. I think
he's lit in it. He's lit. I knew he was good, but you're lit, man. You're lit, and he's become assist king of recent as well.
So that kind of trio there, Odegaard, Smith Rowe, and Trossard, they're the kind of guys that I'm looking at now that kind of make me feel something when I'm watching the game. And I wouldn't say Alexis didn't give me that, but I just feel like I got a lot more from Ozil because he did the unexpected so often.
Where do you think it went wrong for Ozil at Arsenal? Because obviously we all saw how it ended. Do you think he failed to adapt not just to Arsenal, but the demands of the modern game? Do you feel at Arsenal he was kind of let down? Because I'm sure you'll remember, we signed him, then we're like, we need a defensive mid, then we need a striker, then we need this, we need that. It's like we got all of them pieces. Suddenly Mesut Ozil's out the team, really.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because I think at certain points you're just saying, give him a striker. And I think that 15-16 season obviously speaks out to everyone when Arsenal finished second behind Leicester and he had 19 assists like halfway through the season and just couldn't get that 20th one.
I remember the 0-0 against Southampton. I'm sure I was at that game. That was frustrating. Yeah. That's what a frustrating football match looked like, man.
Yeah, so there's things like that where there's things where it kind of worked against him timing wise, I think. But then also when you look, I guess, towards the back end of his Arsenal career, you probably would expect a bit more kind of a two-way kind of relationship to work. Obviously, personally, I think just the change in environment from Wenger to Emery was a big one.
Dramatic one.
Yeah, massive.
Emery had him playing out wide with Mkhitaryan. It's crazy.
So, I think that might have been maybe just too much too soon. And then from there, you didn't really see him, I guess, adapt, as you say before. I'd still think his last playing season, 19-20, honestly, I remember that was kind of the first season I was covering Arsenal. And there were some games, Chelsea at home, Manchester United at home, Liverpool away.
There's so many games this guy
where I was still like just wowed by him. But as I said earlier, it's a two-way street, really. And I think you're seeing that with Odegaard, where you're getting almost everything, the whole picture with him. And thankfully, Arsenal are thriving because of that.
What would you say went wrong for him? Because again, specifically Arteta, because fair enough, Emery, we don't need to go over that. But it looked like initially you and Arteta, he's your former teammate. You lot have made love. Pause. He was playing. Have to. He was playing, and then it's like we woke up one day frozen out. Now Arteta's clearly been backed up. I don't know if it was getting to demands with the tactics. Obviously, Ozil's a bit of an enigma in terms of his attitude and things like all talisman. Maybe he didn't rein that in. Where is it for you with him and Arteta specifically?
Yeah, I haven't thought about this in ages. So my mind might be a bit foggy. But yeah, for me, I guess you saw after coming back from lockdown, I think the writing was on the wall, really, when he was on the bench, not coming on in games. And I guess it was just a bit of a sticky one because there was a lot. I think there was probably a lot of kind of off-field stuff as well as on-field things.
Yeah.
You remember, I think, the pay cuts, where I think Ozil was the only player who didn't really want to go into that because he wanted, I guess, a proper explanation of where that money was going and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be kind of wanting to talk about him as a character and putting him down. But yeah, I think you can probably read between the lines that it wasn't really just about football, because if it was, he would have been playing every week, I think. And thankfully, Emile Smith-Rowe was the guy who came in and filled that void at the number 10 position in that season where Ozil wasn't playing. So, yeah, I think a lot of things you can kind of look back in hindsight and say, oh, someone was definitely right or someone was definitely wrong. But I think the most important thing is kind of just moving on from that and
Facts.
kind of finding the right way to move on. So thankfully there were some internal solutions for Arsenal to go at.
What would you say if I had to ask you for one specific moment from Mesut Ozil at Arsenal?
Ooh,
There's a lot still.
This is difficult. Do you have one?
I have a couple, you know. Actually, the best moment would probably be when we won the FA Cup final against Chelsea. I'm seeing him sprinting back and barging Hazard, actually, because people get onto him about that.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm sure you was there when he was there when we beat Bayern Munich. There's that moment. There's definitely a couple against Liverpool. Oh, do you know what? The goal Aubameyang scored against Leicester could be up there. I'm sure Mesut Ozil played a key role. Sourcing. There's probably a bunch of others.
There's so many moments.
Free kick against Liverpool. I'm sure at the Emirates she scored a free kick against Liverpool.
Yeah, he did. This is really difficult because I feel like if I pick one, I'm just going to be disrespecting so many of the moments.
That's how exactly I feel. So I thought someone had to join me.
So, let me have a think.
Oh man.
You know what? This is going to sound so weird and abstract, but there was I think a game against Hull in his second season, where the ball is coming to him and he's facing the goal, and the ball's coming from behind him, and he does this kind of pirouette in the air and he flicks it round the corner with his back heel, volleyed back heel. I think that might just stick out as a moment.
Was that the Emirates for Giroud?
No, that one was against Aston Villa, same season. But yeah, so those moments like that, I think, are things that I'd pick rather than like a goal or something like that, just because I think it typifies the class of him on the pitch.
Facts.
And also in those early years, the shoulder drops as well were disgusting.
The shoulder drops, the reverse passes, the flicks. So
yeah, there's a lot.
I refuse to shoot. I'm just waving. You know,
yeah, there's a lot to go at, but I'll go with that.
The Ludogorets goal as well. The Ludogorets one as well.
Yeah.
That's probably his iconic one. The kind of shooting it into the ground thing. Mesut's a legend, man. My only gripe with Mesut Ozil is that we didn't really see it at high levels more consistently, and we didn't really see the Real Madrid Mesut Ozil. And probably for me, you know, a bit like Pogba with Man United, when you sign these kind of creme de la creme players, that's because the rest of the squad / starting 11, the other pieces or part of the engine are well oiled and they're working. I don't quite think we had that when we signed Mesut Ozil. Yeah. I somewhat always think, looking back in hindsight, right player, wrong time, even though it's not a coincidence. And I will keep saying this because it's propaganda. He signed, he helped us end this trophy drought, innit? You can't look back. 3 FA Cup trophies. Mesut Ozil's a bad boy footballer. Even the whole run in the FA Cup final, man, the run to the final, a bit like Gnabry, people forget a lot of these moments, man. It's amazing, man. Moving away from Mesut Ozil, let's fix this back. Now, obviously, let me get my questions up. I've got a lot to ask you still. We've covered Mesut Ozil, you know, and Martin Odegaard. What did you make of Josh and Stan Kroenke's co-chair move / the statement? I'm sure you've read it.
Yeah, I wasn't too surprised, I guess, would be the way to put it. Obviously, I think what happened is basically just formalizing stuff that's been happening behind the scenes for a while. I guess it's nice to have it, I guess, in writing, because now everyone's kind of on the same page. And one thing, I'm not sure if I've spoken about it before, but obviously after the protests 2 years ago, Josh, more than Stan, became a lot more vocal in terms of being a presence, not just, I guess, in England or London, but with fans
at the Emirates
as well. So being someone they can actually talk to in ASTs and stuff like that. So that's something that was good to see then. I just hope that continues as well, because yes, I know it's I guess a good thing that he was able to do that when fans were very unhappy at the time, but to maintain the work that has been done, that's going to have to continue. So that's one thing that I'd hope does kind of happen, that communication, it still continues to be there.
Do you think Stan, or let's just say the Kroenke case, because clearly we know Josh is kind of going to be a bit more hands-on than Stan as long as he owns this club. And I agree with you. You know, I think, you know, fans have to hold their hands up when we was protesting, getting at them. I think a lot of it was deserved, but you have to give them their plaudits as well, because they've stuck to the manager. They've spent money to the point where any successes or failures we've had in the transfer market has been down to Mesut Ozil, still Mikel Arteta and Edu. So it's like, do you feel that they've not shut fans up, but or have they convinced fans now that they're the right custodians for the club, they're the right ones in charge, and we can move? Because if you was to say, you know, I'm not saying fans are right or wrong, but if fans still felt the same way and they tried to do a process right now with with where Arsenal are right now, not too many people are going to turn up. A few years ago, it's going to be like a Beyonce ticket. Really. So. Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's weird because I'm not sure I'd say it's them that have done that, and I don't think it should be. I think it's going to sound weird saying this, but things probably seem best when you just don't hear from the owners. I know I just said like you want that communication to be there.
I agree with your point.
If they're not the focus point, then that's usually because things are going well on the pitch. So I think the credit probably first and foremost lays with the players, Arteta and his coaching staff. And then what is the reason for that? It's because they were able to be backed and have a clear strategy as well. I think
exactly.
Obviously 2 summers ago, the strategy was Project Youth, in terms of buying, I guess, 6 players who are all under the age of 23. Of those players, I think 4 of them are regulars, at least. Ben White, Ramsdale, Odegaard, and then Tomiyasu when he's fit. And then you've got Tavares and Lokonga who are out on loan. Then obviously not everyone's going to be a massive hit.
Some people are just not going to work. It's just not going to work, and they still have a chance. More so Lokonga.
And then you see where I guess that strategy evolves to this summer, where you kind of add the layer of experience with the mid-20s group of Jesus and Zinchenko. And then again, I think Arteta mentioned this in January. Now that they've done that work and been able to kind of grow with those players, you have a bit more space to add people who are 28 like Trossard, or 31 like Jorginho, just to add a bit more.
Giving new deals to Xhaka and El Nene as well, really.
Yeah, just to give a bit more, again, not just experience, because I know that's a word that just gets thrown around and people think it means,
but can't be underrated.
Yeah, people think it means the world, but actual tangible, I guess, what's the word? Just attributes.
Really. You can't find the word.
Sorry, my bad. But being able to teach these guys what to do in certain moments and talk them through it, and also hit the ground running like Trossard has done. So I think that's probably the best way to describe, I guess, the fan happiness at the minute is it's a lot of things coming together at the right times, rather than any one person or one group of people right at the top who have done something. I think it's all that kind of the whole group coming together, really.
I'm with you, man. I think during the last few years at Arsenal, I think it's shown positively and negatively. Attitude can be infectious, you know.
Yeah.
Not to disrespect Emery, but it's well documented. Experienced and young players were taking the mickey out of you. Now you look at Mikel Arteta, he's made some, him and the board, they gave Aubameyang a new deal, ripped it up as well. Kroenke's back them there as well. I think they've shown that if you're not going to buy into what we're doing, you're gone. And I don't want to accuse any players that aren't here, but I have to assume you didn't. And as you can see, whether it's new additions like Trossard and Jorginho, whether it's a new lease like Xhaka, whether it's the young players, the positivity and that mentality, like they say, you can take them to the water, you can't force anyone to drink. I think it's contagious. And I think all of these big decisions from Edu, from Mikel Arteta and the Kroenkes, it's been backed up. They've been backed up. They stuck to their guns, especially at the start of last season where we lost our first three, and we're doing what we need to do. And again, in relation, you made the kind of point about, I agree with what you said, kind of how Josh and Stan, I won't say they're silent, but clearly their model is, once we find the right people, we'll get some eyes and ears in and around them, like Tim Lewis and obviously indirectly Josh, and we'll leave them to their own devices. That's why I feel any successes or failures of Edu and Arteta now, they have to kind of soldier it. And I think both of them have learned. Last January, you saw what them lot down the lane did. They brought in a couple, we didn't. They got top four, we didn't. We learned our lessons from this Jan. We got over the heartache of Mudryk and Felix, etc. Got Trossard and Jorginho. So we're learning, as I was saying with Aubameyang's deal, there's got to be a reason we gave it to him and then ripped it up. They've been backed up in that decision with what we're doing. So I respect it really and truly. Again, it's now a case of, can we keep going? And I'm sure you've done your own research. When you look at all the clubs they own and things, it's a similar sort of structure. And when you see now that, because in truth, nothing's really changed, but, they've become the co-chairs. Tim Lewis has stepped up. Edu's our sporting director a few seasons ago or months ago, whatever. Arteta became manager versus head coach. And obviously, we've seen a lot of players sign new deals. It's just further confirming, in my opinion, stability, longevity, ultimately singing from the same hymn sheet. And I'm sure you'll agree, we just we finally got some stability at this football club. It's not topsy-turvy. There used to be a time we'd wake up and this is happening, that is happening, this guy's bust up, that guy bust up. Any stresses should be just from the football pitch or successes or stresses. And I think they've got that, man. So I think you're speaking facts, man. Obviously, what have you made of the last month of fixtures?
Yeah. So before we go on to that, I also think it's important. You mentioned it, kind of owning mistakes is important as well, because we talk about the strategy that went well in terms of Project Youth and then building on that, but there was a strategy before that didn't go so well in terms of
Willian, Marie, Cedric, signings have gone wrong. Tavares, Lokonga, Aubameyang,
so
things go wrong.
I think it's important not to kind of, I guess, and I'm not saying you were doing it, but just not to pretend those things didn't happen or gloss over them, because they've had to learn on the job. This was Edu's first role in Europe as a club technical director, now sporting director.
Arteta's first job as a
Arteta's first job as a manager. So there have definitely been bumps on the road, and those time periods were very tough for everyone. But it's quite nice to see that it looks like they've learned from them and gone forward. So yeah, I just wanted to say that before moving on to the last month of fixtures.
No, you're speaking 100% facts, my guy. 100% facts. And I think if you're not making mistakes, I've made mistakes on YouTube. You've made mistakes making articles. And if you're learning how to ride a bike, you're gonna fall off a couple of times. We can't, no matter how much due diligence you do around players and all these things, football has a funny way of showing you different. But it's about minimizing those mistakes and maximizing what you're good at. And we've appeared to turn a corner in that regard. So I've got full admiration. As you said, you learn, we made mistakes. You learn more from your mistakes than your successes. And Lord knows, Mikel Arteta will probably be the first to say he's made mistakes. He's definitely had a very tough introduction to life as a manager, let alone Arsenal Football Club. So for, how he's still got a lovely head of hair, I don't know, but it's lovely to see, man. It's lovely to see certain guys down the road got extensions and they're doing everything they can to leave that club, power shift and all that, novice managers ahead of you, as they said. We're doing all right over in North London, really. Arteta might be able to win a league title. What have you made of the last month, though, man? Because as you can see here, and for anyone that's just listening, obviously we kicked off the month with a 4-0 victory against Everton. Dramatic, game against Bournemouth would be an understatement. 5-goal thriller. We won 3-2. We went out ultimately against Sporting Lisbon across those 2 legs. We beat Fulham away from home 3-0. And we've ended the month and going to the international period with a 4-1 victory against Crystal Palace. You know, your neck of the woods, really. You know, so what you made of the month?
Yeah, it's a difficult one to assess in some ways because you have, I guess, the highs of winning 4 league matches. Was it 4? Yeah, 4 league matches. And then the low of the Europa League exit. What I would say is what I'm most happy about is if you're a neutral watching Arsenal and you watch their last 2 league games, so Crystal Palace and Fulham, I'm hoping the second half was so boring for you to watch.
Trust.
Trust.
No more drama, man. No more dramas. No more dramas.
I think the Everton game was very, very good. It was kind of the perfect start to the month because by the kind of hour mark, Arteta was able to make subs, not just at half time, which was a shock. But
said
at the hour mark,
was ill. I don't know, because Jorginho's been good. He was a bit shaky in that game, probably saving his guy a bit. I don't know. Partey did well.
He was able to make subs at different periods of the game, which was nice. But then, I think things just got way too emotional in that Bournemouth game because of the unpredictability of the first 10 seconds.
Bro, Arsenal doing the heart rate stuff, man. Whether VAR should have denied us or not, that was a madness. It's nice to see. I'm happy to see Reece Nelson and Smith Rowe get some assists, and Partey was great. But I'd say the one thing I would say, the goals we have conceded this month, I'm sure every coach and every fan would, but they're very avoidable. Clearly, set pieces is still an Achilles heel of us. The time we concede these goals, and just, I don't know, man. It seems like I just think we're better defensively away from home than at home. It seems like we, apart from the Villa game last month, the month before, we're that added percentage a bit more. I don't know if it's indirect complacency. I don't know if it's just crazy at the Emirates, but we seem to make more dramatic circumstances at the Emirates versus away from home, man.
Yeah, I think one thing that comes into it is just sometimes there's a sloppiness that creeps into their play. You see it a lot.
Happen against Palace as well.
Yeah, you see it a lot more in the Europa League games because obviously it's a different set of players who are having to kind of gel for, I guess, a week, and then they don't play again, and then they have to play again. So it's quite difficult to kind of keep that rhythm. But for me, I guess the thing is just staying urgent and intense at all times. Which, to be fair, they have done for large periods of the season. They've just been wobbles like in February.
God, we can't look back. The past brings regret, the future brings uncertainty. There's no time like the present, like Arsene Wenger said. Let's forget any of that. Let's deal with the month that we're in, mate. This is all that matters. Look ahead, man. Look ahead. It's all crazy right now.
Sorry. Sorry, that made me laugh.
No, man, forget that. Man.
Okay, let's forget February.
March thing.
It's nice that they were able to properly take control of the Fulham game and the Palace game from the start, really. I know Zaha had his little chance where he hit the post, but aside from that, Arsenal looked like Arsenal.
Zaha was on something mad defensively. These 2 of them goals he could have done a lot better. Well, you made a Trossard this month.
I love him.
6 goal assists in his last 5 appearances for us, as it says here.
Yeah, people who follow me on Twitter will know how I feel about him. But for me, I just see Arshavin. I honestly,
I see the angle. I see it.
Able to play in a variety of positions in the front line. Technically brilliant. And the big thing for me is he knows what he's going to do before the ball reaches his feet. It makes so much of a difference. I think the assist for Odegaard against Everton, I was just watching it happen in front of me. And as the ball goes out to him from Xhaka, you can see what touch he's going to make before he
So
even does it.
footed, man.
And yeah, for me, he's an excellent player and one of those guys who just reminds me of the old Arsenal. So I'm very kind of happy that Arsenal were able to get him because he looks like he belongs, really.
Fits us like a glove, man.
Definitely. And yeah, the only thing is I wish his goal against Leicester would have counted.
Don't even start him, man. They're just doing him dirty, man. You can see he's hungry for a goal as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes a bit greedy. Well, you made a Saka and Martinelli.
Very good. What can we say that hasn't been said already?
Amen.
I think what I guess has impressed me more is Martinelli's response to getting dropped or rested, whichever way you want to look at it. He just kind of seems to be back in a new gear, really. And what I liked most about him against Crystal Palace was he went on his left foot for the goal. We've seen.
I like making content with you. Keep going. Don't let me mess up, man. I'm loving this.
We've seen Saka since he came into the team. He's been comfortable going outside or inside. Martinelli's shown it in glimpses, like his goal against West Ham, and also just being able to get around and maybe cause defenders some issues like that. But yeah, I was just really happy that I was able to make space for himself because it was not an easy cross to bring down and then figure out where you are. Bro. Figure out where you are in the box. Figure out what type of finish is required as well.
Bro, that's what I like. Martinelli thinks quickly, and for me, he makes it sound stupid because you got to do it in a professional football environment. But he senses things are happening. Like when you look at a lot of his goals, and I said this when he signed for us in pre-season, and obviously wasn't this. I was like, even when he weren't involved in scoring, if it was a crime scene, he's not too far away from it. Like he's there, active. He's about, he's involved. Yeah, like he's just active. He's Savaginelli, Scrapinelli. I like him. But like it says here, most goals by a Brazilian in a single Premier League season. Firmino with 15. Martinelli just needs 3 more. I really hope him and Saka can get as close to 20 goals and assists as possible. I think Martinelli probably with the assisting ain't going to get there, but yeah.
Madness. What I also like is they're very different types of wide players. Saka's an all-rounder. We all know that. But he's also more of a combination guy. So you will see those combinations with Odegaard and White as well, who I think has been exceptional. At right,
we're gonna get on to Ben White. Don't worry, the defenders are gonna get their hay-lops today.
But yeah, when you look at Saka, we're just seeing what he's been doing for 3 years. We're just seeing it come to fruition. We're just seeing it being executed at a more consistent level because he's always been able to get into positions. It's just like 2 seasons ago.
Trophy, bro. I can't believe Saka is doing this. So proud.
2 seasons ago, he would get into positions and his finishing might not be great. But the thing is, he was 19 years old getting into those positions.
Scary. Real 1v1 demon. Not like them dons over there in Cobham that are on loan in Germany, counting pre-assists and been on the bench and games and that. I don't know about them star boys.
And also, I guess what you have to mention with Saka as well is, again, he's been doing this for 3 years, but he puts the team on his back. A lot of his goals or assists are either the first goal, the opening goal in the games, or they're the equalizers. He stands up when someone needs to be counted, and it's just a blessing to have someone like that in your team, who is a supreme talent, who people try and double up, triple up on, and we'll talk more about White later. But
that's a brilliant.
The thing with that as well is that it leaves a lot of space for other players like Martinelli for their opening goal against Crystal Palace. So, yeah, I can't speak highly enough of them.
Who's got the highest ceiling, Martinelli or Saka?
I don't, just enjoy it, man.
Nah. Gun to your head. It's all over. Life is gone. There's a mad criminal. Your life's over. You got to pick
Again,
one, bro.
I think this is quite similar to the Ozil Sanchez debate. It just comes down to what type of player you like more. I think.
Do you lot smell that? It's smelling like a cop out, people.
No. I'm gonna say
No,
Martinelli is gonna have more of an X factor. I think he's gonna be more wow. But I just think Saka's versatility for me is what will make me gravitate towards saying him. Because I think his potential, he can still do so much. I don't think we've seen half of what he can do, really.
I think Martinelli's scratched the surface of his potential. Obviously, you know, we bought him from Etano, but he was at Corinthians. In a nice way, you can see that he didn't have, for me anyways, have that conventional sort of footballing education. And there's still elements of scrappiness in his game. And I just see that South-American hunger that can just take you to a next level. But then Saka, he might not... I think Saka's very pleasing on the eye and stuff, but he's not necessarily the most eye-catching of young players. But he's very versatile. He's very consistent. It's not really surprising, but it's surprising how he just keeps going up the levels. And Saka just makes me sit there and scratch my head. I'm like, Raw, you had a great season last year. You're having a great season this year, but you've already eclipsed how many goals you got last year. So like, you're very scary. And that's something I've seen with Saka since I saw him at 15 years of age playing for the under 18s. I'm not going to sit here and say, I knew he'd be special, but I wouldn't see him doing this because I can't see the future. So I don't know. If I had to put money, I'd probably say Saka, but maybe Brazil biased. It might be a Martinelli thing, my guy. I can't lie. Like, what have you made of Trossard and Martinelli sort of link up on the left and
very natural, I think. Obviously, there's been a lot of discussion around Martinelli playing centrally for ages now.
I don't think he's ready for
and
that.
For me, I don't really see him starting there. But when you have someone who's able to just rotate with him on the pitch and just pop up in random pockets, I think it kind of suits him because he's similar to Aubameyang in a way that he likes that inside left zone anyway. So if you can just get him on the ball there, you're laughing, really. The one thing, I guess, that does look a bit uneasy on the eye is when he receives the ball with his back to goal. But he's not going to be doing that too often. And then obviously Trossard's comfortable wherever you give him the ball. So yeah, it's a nice, I guess, added element to this Arsenal attack because you've got that link up. You've got that relationship. You've got the relationship between Jesus and Martinelli, which is similar but not exactly the same. And then you've got Eddie when he's fit. He's a different type of player.
You would spread the propaganda for South London, wouldn't you?
I'm just saying. But you've got... I've mentioned 3 different, I guess...
and there's
relationships there. But there's even more.
Jesus and Martinelli, there's Bear, man. Benjamin and Saka, Odegaard and Saka, Odegaard, Saka and Benjamin White. Actually, Granit Xhaka down that left-hand side with Zinchenko and Martinelli. Careful, some Arsenal fans said Zinchenko's play his arm in Martinelli. It's absolutely absolute nonsense, that, man. Crazy stuff.
So, yeah, I think it's nice to just see a lot of relationships being built. And you can tell when players click together. You can see it with Trossard and Martinelli. You can see it with a lot of those guys.
I think one thing that I think Saka's got over Martinelli, and I think Martinelli's starting to learn it, is I remember Arteta saying he needs to learn to not do everything at 100 miles per hour. I think, he's got to keep an element of that because that makes him as a player. But I'm seeing him hold space better, make runs off the ball better at times. Obviously, you probably do it as a young player. And Saka used to. You kind of get gravitated towards the ball a lot. I think tactically, away from his goals and the fact that he's a first name on the team sheet, I think he understands better what Mikel Arteta wants of him tactically. And I hate to say it, but injuries are reality of football. The best thing in hindsight for us this season was probably Smith Rowe getting injured purely on the emergence of Martinelli. Now, I hope Smith Rowe gets fit. I think too many fans are turning their backs on him and Tomiyasu. You can't go from him pulling this club from everywhere last season to getting rid of him. And I'm keen to see it. I think we've got some real star boys here and we've brought in some other quality. Who would you say has got the highest potential then? You know, Martinelli, Saka, or Martin Odegaard? Because I do think us Arsenal fans, we get carried away just speaking about Saka and Martinelli. We forget Odegaard's a big boy in this himself as well. You know, 24. Me and you have talked about at length. When we signed this guy, I was ecstatic. I know he had a tough January, but I think people sleep on what Martin Odegaard could become as well. Really do.
From that trio, it becomes a lot harder. And I think this again, maybe is my own just football brain talking, because he's a central midfielder. I'd go for Odegaard. Just because
you can tell you're a Wenger baby, you know.
But what I want to say about him is, and you mentioned it before in terms of his defensive stuff, is he does the ugly stuff and doesn't make it look ugly.
Yeah, he makes it look wavy. He's wavy. Odegaard is wavy. I can't best Norwegian Italy.
He doesn't mind getting stuck in. And I think it was I took a note of it. It might have been in my phone. One sec.
See why we get these guys from The Athletic. You see the level of journalism going for the notes and that, people. Smash the like button if you haven't already. Also, check out the description, because all of Art's stuff is on there. You know, his Twitch, you know, he's a streamer as well. And obviously his Twitter account, which I can't imagine you're not following, you know. He's going to be the Black David Ornstein soon, people. So make sure you're talking to me, you know what I mean?
I can't find it on my phone. It might be on my computer. But
it's
anyway,
man.
There was a moment, I think it was against Palace, where he runs like 30 meters back to make a challenge, and then basically the whole midfield does a little rondo in the middle of the pitch and just basically take the sting out of the whole game.
That led to a goal, innit?
It might have done.
I think I know what. I think it led to a goal, you know, a bit like in the Bournemouth game where Partey kind of forced the issue in what would have led to White's goal, because it went out to Nelson. Yeah, there's a couple of those, man. I still think Odegaard Project 8 is brewing soon. But
I think for me, Odegaard is just the guy that I look at when I think a total footballer. And I think obviously it's a massive deal that he's managed to get double figures for goals this season. But we know he can do even more.
Showing Arteta taking man to the next level again.
Because he's getting into those positions all the time. It's just sometimes his shooting is
even now he's been a bit too greedy. I like it, you know. I can't lie. Against Palace and
I remember
him and Saka were doing too much, bro.
There was a moment against Palace where I think Trossard was so open, it was ridiculous.
He decided to shoot anyway. I'm not Mesut Ozil, mate.
But that's the thing. I guess you want that in a way because he's confident. And I think as captain as well, what also puts him in another kind of level is after the games, he is the one who will stay back before or after all the other players have gone off, and he does a lap of the pitch, applauding the fans. I think that's something that, yes, it's not football related, but you can tell. You can tell he feels it, and even against Sporting Lisbon when he came on, again, it wasn't an attacking moment. I think he made a tackle near the halfway line, and his first instinct was to get the crowd up. So
he loves that, you know.
Yeah, him and Zinchenko love it. I missed the question that was for me. Sorry, because I was talking.
No, we'll get back. Don't worry, I ain't missed it though. It's there. Don't worry.
Okay,
don't worry. It's
cool.
There.
But yeah, I think he's just becoming a really good all-round player. Who's got so many strings to his bow.
Look at the possession one in the final third. And it's nice to see Trossard's also up there as well. It's kind of wavy.
Definitely.
It's an absolute madness. When you look at Odegaard's statistics for this season alone, obviously, he's doing a madness. Is that even right? 10 goals. Crazy.
Yes.
He's moving mad. And even when you look at his Premier League appearances, now I'm happy that he's starting to come into his own, because as I've spoken to you about it before, I always look at players, especially not that Odegaard's young-ish, but young. When you start crossing 100 appearances, either in the league or for this football club, I start looking at you different. And it's nice to see he's got that added them layers to his game. 18 goals now, bulk of them have come down, 12 assists, and that tells me that the players are taking heed of it, taking responsibility. That shows me Mikel Arteta is doing what he needs to do on a footballing field, because we've got attacking players. I won't say they're playing to their full potential because there's many gears to go up, but in terms of this season, everybody's playing to their full potential. There's goals all over the field. In many years, we would have, not that we didn't miss Jesus, but we didn't miss Jesus. So goals are being shared all around. I think what's not rated with Odegaard is his willingness to get stuck in. You know, he could have been a model in another career. He doesn't fit he doesn't fit the image of an ugly English centre mid getting stuck in. He does all of that and more. The guy he's such a player. I'm happy to have him here. Like, I'm really happy to have him here. I don't want to forget this question, but Diallo, appreciate you for tuning in. Question for Art. A lot is made of Zinchenko's weakness defensively. Is that correct or overstated in your eyes?
Oof.
Good question.
Yeah, it is a good question, because I think about it a lot as well. Because there's times like the Bournemouth goal, the one in the first 9 seconds, he's just backing off.
And Ramsdale's save, where Trossard's got back for him. But that's Zinchenko, isn't it? He's never...
Yeah.
We have to kind of accept him.
Yeah, I think you're kind of right on that, because there are moments, again, like against Crystal Palace, where he got tight on Elise and actually won the ball a few times. So we know that he can defend. It's just comes down to decision making most of the time. And if you're looking at the player as a whole, I guess the positives that come with what happens in possession probably outweigh what happens out of possession. And I think a massive part of that is Gabriel as well, because again, this was probably easier to see like in person, especially in lockdown, because you weren't distracted by, I guess, the whole spectacle of the game. You were just focusing on what was happening on the pitch.
Fact.
But he's so imposing. He's got a good burst of acceleration. Physically, I don't think there's many players in the league that can outstrength him. So he does a really massive job in terms of sweeping up for Zinchenko. Obviously, in certain games, it won't work out as Arsenal 100%. Want all the time, because there will be a day where they meet a right winger who's just rapid. But for the most part,
Kieran Tierney's and we just need an organic fullback. That's natural. You need different blends in your squad, variety, spice of life, and that.
But yeah, for the most part, I think it's just something that you kind of have to live with at the minute. But it is something that does concern me at times, because when he is actually at left back and he doesn't engage with the ball, it is something that does annoy me a little bit, because I just think you're there, you can see the ball, go for it, and he doesn't. So hopefully that's something that maybe he looks at, maybe the coaching staff looks at, and they try and get him to engage a bit more, like he did against Elise. But yeah, for the most part, I think you can maybe have everything, but there's always going to be some deficiency there.
Like you said, I mean, the man's human. Obviously, let's be real. You know, Zinchenko is a centre mid that went to City, looked around, rightly so, because I did that in school and became a fullback. Like, all these guys are good. I'm going to do this fullback thing. He's done that. Arteta's made him that, and it's worked. And for us, it's dumb, but he's not in the team, arguably, to defend. You know, we kind of are a bit clever with Gabriel and maybe Martinelli's youthful exuberance and Partey there and say, you know what, go into midfield, go and control the game for us. Now, like you said, evidently, there's going to be times you can defend better and stuff like that, and that's an angle for him to improve upon. But I kind of have to accept him for what he is. You're not a left back that's known for defending. You're known for doing this wavy stuff. And you, Granit Xhaka, you know, Martin Odegaard, I think you lot are the nucleus of our team, really and truly. You lot are almost like extensions of the coaching stuff. So without them, we're you know, it is what it is. What have you made of Rob Holden's performance against Crystal Palace, and obviously Saliba's injury potentially? You know, we faced the prospect of Holden maybe getting an extended run in the side. Hopefully not, respectfully to Holden, because I want Saliba back. We've got serious things to achieve. So yeah,
I think it was solid enough. What I guess impressed me was his willingness to be a bit more creative with his passing, I should say. So the diagonals out to Martinelli. The diagonals out to Martinelli were quite nice. But as you say, I'm not sure whether he has it in his locker to thread those balls to maybe Odegaard along the floor. I don't know, because I haven't seen that in a few years. since he got that ACL injury.
Yeah, that was a shame, man. He was really developing before that.
But yeah, I think in terms of defending, he done what was required. Basically, he was tight when he needed to be. He was happy to defend past the halfway line, which is a big thing in this Arsenal team. There will probably be moment. It was a little bit lucky with that chance in the 15th minute with Edouard.
Couple of times, really and truly, with Holden.
So I think you see, I guess there was a bit more, I guess, leeway for Palace than say for Fulham when Saliba started. Sorry, my voice is a bit rubbish. But yeah, you'd obviously hope Saliba's not too serious and that he still can have a part to play this season because it's night and day, really, when you look at how he performs in that role.
Like you said it there, man. Like I don't mind Holden. You know, I would love to upgrade on the right-sided centre back to take his place. But you've come in, you've done the job. I felt you actually did all right against Haaland, even though you got stressed out a bit. You didn't score at that point. Obviously, you kind of said it. You know, when we're playing a high line, when Holden's kind of forced into wide areas, you don't really want to see it. He's just not able to do it. You know, we lose a bit with Saliba's not being there. You know, them lot are more athletic than him. But you came in, you done a job. Hopefully you can do that against Leeds. I'm not going to lie. I really, really, really hope Saliba is back for Liverpool. That's one where Arteta do even flirt with changing the system because Holden will be exposed and that PTSD will kick in. You know, Mane's not there anymore, but it'll get long for him. So I think you're right, man. Keeping up the theme with defenders, yeah. What do you make of Kieran Tierney's lack of game time and his future? And what do you think of Benjamin White's performances? Because he's been superb.
Tierney, I would say, was really unlucky to be ill for the first leg of the Sporting tie because when you come back to the Emirates with a draw, you kind of have to go all out, which is probably why Zinchenko started the second leg. It was nice to see him come on and get an assist as well for Saka in the Crystal Palace game. I would say if I was him looking at it in the summer, I can understand if he would prefer to move on.
Let me stop you on that, yeah? You said if you're him, yeah? And I think you're right. But devil's advocate, one, this might cut. Surely Arsenal is as good as it's good. I know he's been linked with Madrid and these things, and Newcastle's a great project. You'd be closer back to home. But if you're going to join a big club, this is going to be the competition. We're in the Champions League. And as good as Zinchenko is, anyone can lose form. And obviously, you know, sometimes you might get injured or sometimes Arteta might change his dynamics. Would you be in that much of a hurry to leave?
Again, you're asking an Arsenal fan.
Hypothetical.
If I'm just being straight, I'll say if I was him, if I was looking at possibilities, I wouldn't say no to moving on in the summer because of what's happened this season. But also, you do have to keep in mind that when you rewind a year, people were talking about this guy as if he was going to be the new Arsenal captain.
Didn't he just sign a new contract recently as well? 2026.
Yeah, and so you have to understand, I guess, if I was speaking to him, he's held in very high regard, especially by Mikel Arteta. When you think about, I guess, the word you use, the nucleus of this squad in this past 3 years, he's been a big part of that. He, like Smith Rowe, is someone who dragged Arsenal out of the depths of hell.
As well. Some fans just forgot about them, man.
So, yeah, for me, if I was him, and you can see that he's made an effort to try and learn that inverted kind of role. Maybe it's not as natural to him as it is with Zinchenko. We all know that. But he's at least tried. So yeah, for me, I guess it just comes down to him more than anyone, because I think if you were Mikel Arteta or Arsenal, you just try and keep him as long as possible because you want that option, you want that versatility. But I think this is I think we spoke about it with Eddie last season, where it comes down to what the player wants, really, rather than what Arsenal want. I don't think Arsenal would be in control of that situation, and that's not to talk like down to them. It's just I think it's the reality of the situation because of how the season has gone. And also, one thing I'd say is you probably wouldn't have been able to predict, I guess, the impact Zinchenko was going to have on this team, both
Do you
on
have them?
and off the
Carry
pitch.
on, but do you? I would say adding on to that, just because, as you would said with Tierney, do you have them same concerns about Smith Rowe potentially?
Personally, no. And a big part of that is because he came up through the academy, and I feel like he's got a bit of unfinished business anyway, because he was the guy that basically just turned that season around on Boxing Day. So yeah, I personally am not worried with him really.
But do you make a Benjamin White as well?
Yeah, we forgot to get to him.
Yeah. I got to plug the fullbacks, man. We
Benny
don't get our
Blanco.
praises.
Benjamin Blanco.
Yeah.
So he's been
Love Island's Benjamin.
he's been exceptional. I think Carlos Cuesta, one of the backroom coaches, told him his best attribute was how good a learner he is. And we've seen that this season. We saw it in drips and drabs last year.
You don't need to watch football when you behave like that. Shout out Benjamin, man.
We saw it drips and drabs last season. I remember the Chelsea game, the 4-1. Was it 4-1 or 4-2? 4-2 at Stamford Bridge, where Arteta did that thing where he played like 3 different systems in one game, and White played right back in a 4, right centre back in a 3, and then right back in a 4 again. And I think that was where you first kind of saw the seeds being sown for what would happen
Being
this
reverted
season.
back to right back, yeah.
And what I really like is he's actually upgraded on what Tomiyasu offered last season.
Yeah, Tomiyasu's mad conservative. To be fair to him, there's games for that, but it's looking like you might have to become a centre back in this system.
Yeah.
Really, for what we're trying to do.
Because Tomiyasu did a really good job last season, and what he brought was a lot of, I guess, security and build up.
Come on.
Thank you, Di. We can come to that if we want. It was obviously a very strange night. So so we can come to that. But yeah, in terms of White and Tomiyasu, obviously Tomiyasu brings security and build up, and White just adds another level of unpredictability in the attack because he's able to go outside and support the attack,
or a lot more comfortable on the ball than Tomiyasu, respectfully.
Or he can sit inside too and play those passes inside the fullback, which obviously was so beneficial for Bukayo Saka on the weekend. So what you see with White in a different way to Zinchenko is someone who has so many, I guess, layers to their game that you don't know how to pin them down, really.
And I think it shows how, just to add on to that point, I think it shows that, there's a thin line between shoehorning and versatility. When players that we've got now are actually good at that stuff, there's many players that have shown versatility. Trossard, Benjamin, Zinchenko, kind of within that midfield premise, where we've been here before with Mkhitaryan, with Ozil, with Aubameyang, in the greatest of respects to them, where it looks like shoehorning, even Lacazette. But we used to play Lacazette as a 10 at times. We've really come out the trenches, man. We've come a long way, man. We've come a long way, bro.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing it across the pitch, and that's the big thing. Just people who are comfortable with the ball.
That's the word, comfortability.
They know what to do in certain moments. Again, there's moments where they will just kill the game. They will just silence a crowd by just passing it between themselves for 2 minutes. And I think moments like that are almost as important as goals as well, because you're able to control the mood and the emotion of 60,000 people, or even more
for us Arsenal fans, where you could have previously cut tension with a knife.
So yeah, I think being able to, I guess, control your destiny is something that is a luxury that Arsenal have at the minute, and just having so many players that can control that as well is a blessing.
Quick fire questions now, yeah, because I want to before I wrap this up, I want to ask you on the 10 games we got left. Balogun or Eddie, who's got the highest ceiling for you?
Oh my god!
No. This is one day. This is why I did it. Just a day. I'm gonna go Balogun, but then again, I think Eddie could have been doing what Balogun's doing in France. I'm gonna go Balogun, and it's disrespect. It's not even disrespectful, but it's somewhat disrespectful to Eddie. I think it's close. I'm gonna go Balogun.
I don't know.
Nah, come on, bro. Gun to your head. Life's over. It's over.
I think Balogun's probably more X factor.
Fair enough. All right, cool. Declan Rice or Caicedo?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Personally, I feel like Caicedo ship sailed, so I'll say Rice.
Fair enough. Zubamendi or Bentancur?
Need someone that can move.
Benassia, apologies. That's a Bentancur. Benassia.
Wait. Oh, sorry. You meant Benassia. Okay, that's
I don't know. Benassia's Zubamendi.
I was like, Bentancur, really?
Yeah.
Benassia, you know he's my guy.
I knew he was going to say that because it's FM. All right, cool. So my last question for you, with everything in that regards, big up to everybody tuned in. Make sure you're checking out Art's stuff on The Athletic. You're following him on Twitch. You're following him on Twitter. Everything's in the description of this video. But yet to wrap this up, because I'm aware we go live in 3 minutes again. Arsenal versus City's running, bro. Talk to me.
Eesh.
Yeah. Bad thing, isn't it?
So, honestly, I haven't looked at Cities that much.
You can look now, bro. Semantic. I think we need to beat City for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Anfield, if we ain't going to win this season, when are we going to win at Anfield? West Ham, Southampton, them men are fighting for their lives. I want to win at St. James's Park.
Yeah, I think
I'll set the boys the challenge. Don't lose at home for what's left.
Yeah. So home games are Leeds, Southampton, Chelsea, Brighton, and Wolves. Yeah, don't lose at home. And
defend a lot better.
I think you can probably realistically only drop points in 2 games there for it to be.
You got a 6-pointer on the 26th of April.
So yeah, and that's a massive game, obviously, as well. So yeah, I'm just trying to enjoy the ride, man. Why are you trying to stress me out?
Hey, man, I don't even look at the league table. This is the first time I'm looking at who we're playing. I didn't even know we had Leeds next, man. I don't know anything. I'm like you. I'm just enjoying what Arsenal are doing. Just happy to be here. Just love that the sun is finally shining and this beautiful football club has finally remembered how beautiful she is, and we're alive and kicking. Thanks God to Arteta, the players, the fans, and everybody involved, man. All right, cool.
I think
we winning this league?
Yeah. Sorry, what?
Are we winning this league title? I don't know that Arsenal are in the title race, so I was you being the Predator journalist that you are. I thought you might be more intelligent at that.
Yeah, I thought Arsenal were just going for top 4.
I haven't seen the title. When last did I look at the Prem? August.
What's the title? What I'm gonna say is that week, City, Chelsea, Newcastle. Those games, it's 3 games in 1 week, I think. So that is a big week. So maybe we can chat after that week.
3 games in 10 days, bro. Basically.
Yeah.
I think we need to get 6 to 9 points, man. I don't think I personally think you need to beat City across the 2 games that you have against them if you are to win the league. But you can hopefully Liverpool do us a favor when they next play in the Prem. But I think you need to for me to be a lot more comfortable, I think you need to beat City. Chelsea are going to want revenge. I think we need to beat Chelsea. And I think
Newcastle's massive.
Points. Yeah, I think you need 7 to 9 points realistically. I don't think you can City, like they showed that year with Liverpool, like you could be perfect and City will somehow manage to eclipse you. But I don't think there's no margin for error. And even I'm confident in our away form. I'm confident how we've played at home. I think at home we've made things a lot more difficult. And I'm just wary of the teams that still got stuff to play for. Leeds are fighting for their lives. Same for Southampton and West Ham, regardless of on paper.
Well, this is the thing. Like early in the season, when Arsenal say Arsenal beat Palace on the opening day, people said it's just Palace.
Yeah.
They didn't. I don't think a lot of people got the context of that game for Arsenal, because Palace away is a massive game for Arsenal.
Exactly, massive. So was Brentford.
Brentford as well. After last year, these are things that mean something because of what has happened in the past, and they've been able to overcome these barriers that have previously just kind
more
of
than anything as well
shackled them. And you've seen it shackle them at various points in the past few seasons. So I think that's what's been most encouraging. If we're talking about just the season as a whole, they've been able to pass tests that they failed so routinely, and they haven't just passed those tests; they've actually been convincing, scoring 4 goals away at Brighton.
To the point where when we win these games, they sit there and say, "Oh well, in hindsight, that team weren't that good." And after bigging it up the week or the day or an hour before the kickoff of these games, but they said we haven't played anyone, mate. So leave your media colleagues who are not as positive about Arsenal to say what they want to say in it.
Well, it's not even positive. It's just saying it for what it is. But yeah. I guess we'll take it how it goes, and
that's what we can do.
Hopefully people, I guess, continue to enjoy the ride, and we'll see how it goes.
Come on, and with that being said, let them know where they can find you.
So at Art de Roché on Twitter, where I'm a bit silly.
Meme game on fleek, people, man. He loves a meme and them things there. Like, he's crazy.
And I'm on Twitch as well, playing a few video games.
Information on that is in the description as well. Check
Hogwarts
that out.
Legacy. I'll probably jump on a bit later, maybe play some Hogwarts Legacy, and I might jump on FIFA as well. So yeah, if you want to join in, like Deluded said, the links are in the description and that. So
people, make sure you're following that. Don't just listen to what we're saying. Follow and support the movement. We've got the Black David Ornstein here in the making, people. All right, Art, man, it's been fantastic having you here, man. Honestly, it's a pleasure. We've done a lot of shows. I know you personally. I think we have a good vibe and a good laugh. Definitely where Arsenal's concerned, man. So yeah, I'm gonna love and leave you lot, people. I've seen some people commenting. I'm well aware that I'm late for the next stream. I want to go and get into that now. Don't worry, lateness is greatness. I'm live. I'm going to go live almost instantaneously, people. And then around 4:30-ish, we're going to play FM in it. So, yeah, man. One love for you tuning in, people. Smash the like button, subscribe, do all of that good stuff. And thank you very much, man. But for now, we're out, man. One love.
See ya.
Come on.
There's always that active red line. Defenders, I think, like...